the COVID pandemic, we were exposed to the existing inequalities between the haves and the have-nots in Kenya. Communities, low-income communities such as Kibera, really did not have access to much needed information, which was actually a lifeline.
When the corona pandemic broke out, it seriously disrupted public life. Once again, it became apparent that in these extreme situations, those who don't have access to information are particularly vulnerable. One of the most important sources of information is the internet, especially during the COVID pandemic. If you don't have internet access, you don't know what's new, what the current rules are, or where you can get help. The non-governmental organization TunapandaNET has expanded its activities to ensure that people in Kibera, an informal settlement in southwest Nairobi, have a stable internet connection and therefore access to vital information. Josephine Miliza, the co-founder of TunapandaNET and digital rights advocate, explains what TunapandaNET is all about and why this initiative is needed in Kenya.
My name is Josephine Miliza, and I am a digital rights activist or advocate, and also a champion for community networks. At Tunapanda, I work as the lead for the TunapandaNET community network, and also the co-founder of the project as well. Additionally, I also work in other roles within the community networks movement in Africa. TunapandaNET is a community network and it's located in Kibera, an informal settlement in Nairobi, Kenya. So just to back up a bit, because community networks is a very foreign concept or a new concept to different people. Community networks are bottom-up, citizen-driven complementary access models, which are built by the community for the community and with the community. It's a movement that is growing, especially among grassroots organizations. And in Africa, we have over 22 community networks in the region. So the essence of it is where the community owns the infrastructure, the network infrastructure, and this gives power back to the community because they're able to determine which technology they want to use and adapt, reflective on their own values, needs, and wants. Apart from that, community networks are considered holistic approach to digital inclusion because they look at the different aspects that block people from fully utilizing the internet. So the tasks of the project or the goals or the objectives of the project are to address the issues around access to affordable connectivity, as well as build digital capacities for the community, and also look into digital platforms that enable the community members to be able to either upload content or also consume content that is online. So the first thing is reliable and affordable internet access. So this is done through infrastructure deployment, and then the promotion of creation of locally relevant content in the different segments.
Kibera is a special place. The community is left to fend for itself here. You don't rely on governmental support, but rather deal with problems yourself. To advance digital literacy in the informal settlement, the NGO installed public hotspots, but also offered trainings on how to use the internet and other educational opportunities, including health, for example. To achieve this, TunapandaNET also worked with schools and other public institutions. During the COVID pandemic, Zoom meetings for teachers were made possible and learning videos were developed. This filled the gap that was caused because the schools had not been prepared for closures, leaving them with no concept, no digitization experience, and no resources.
So if you go into Kibera, for example, you will meet people from the western part of Kenya, from the eastern part of Kenya, from the central part of Kenya, um, from Nyanza, and also from the coastal area. So it's a place where I think most of the time when people migrate to Nairobi and are looking for an affordable or a cheap place to stay, that has become the settlement. It's quite under-resourced and overcrowded. Uh, Most of the facilities that are there, whether it is educational or health facilities, you find that they are from either non-profit entities or community driven projects. Not much of government support can be found there. Kenya has, especially Nairobi, has a high rate of smartphone penetration. And as a means of communication, you'd find that majority of the youth uh, buy internet bundles, and then they can be able to use WhatsApp for communication, as well as maybe go into other social networks. So there is coverage in terms of from coverage in terms of telecom service providers. However, it is quite unaffordable for the ordinary Kibera resident. During the COVID pandemic, we were exposed to the existing inequalities between the haves and the have-nots in Kenya. Majority of the responses were largely online. So from access to health-related information with regards to COVID, as well as there was the drive to have to work online. So it meant that only those who have access to the internet would continue to work. Similar to education, the schools were shut down, and the Ministry of Education recommended that schools adopt remote learning. However, this was only possible for private schools or the hubs in Kenya. So the communities, low income communities such as Kibera, really did not have access to much needed information, which was actually a lifeline. So it shone a spotlight on how important it is for everyone to be connected, because it didn't just mean access to information. I think pre-COVID, as a country, we viewed internet as a luxury, as something that it's not a must-have. It's a good to have, but it's not a must-have. But what COVID brought out is that there is need for everyone to have access, because in the event that, as we saw during the shutdowns, during the social distancing, those who were offline did not just lose, I would say, access to information, but part of the reasons that so many residents of Kibera lost their jobs was because they mostly function in the informal settlement, in the informal sector, which a lot of their jobs they were not able to perform online. And also translating now into their children is that they were for more than a year they had to stay at home and wait until the schools reopened, because the schools did not have the capacity or the infrastructure to continue with remote learning. We thought it would be best for us to deploy hotspots in order to extend the coverage. We were able to identify areas within the community, such as football grounds, community public spaces, as well as also extend internet connection into um, health centers that were being used to distribute food to the community as part of the COVID-19 response. So through support from the Internet Society, we were able to extend connections to 6 more hotspots. And in areas that we could be able to reach to the youth, we could be able to reach to learners, we could be able to reach to learners, to teachers, to the youths, as well as to the health centers, because at this point, they were the ones now relaying the information, health-related information to the community, as well as implementing other communal COVID-19 responses, such as food, distributing food to the community, or hand washing, or sanitizers or masks to community members. We saw quite an impressive growth. We would receive unique 4,000 unique devices every month, and so our role was to ensure that we have limited downtime and that the quality of the network is great during this time. We were also able to receive support from our internet service provider, who is the Kenya Education Network, who during this time they provide the extended provision of the internet from what we pay, which is the 50 Mbps to 100 Mbps, enabling us to be able to serve more community members. The learning videos came out as a need in 2020 when the pandemic hit, and it is because as the schools were closed, both parents and teachers, as well as the students, were looking for ways to be more engaged in educational content or learning videos that are not too long, but also relevant to the needs or relevant to the learning levels of the students. So we saw a concept by another organization that was just doing videos around mental health, and how children can play outside during the pandemic, so as to reduce the pressure at home, which was something that the community was experiencing. So together with the schools, with some of the teachers, not all the schools, but some of the teachers that are part of the project, we came up with a number of subjects that we would start off with, and then the teachers would now create very short and interactive learning videos. So we chose subject around health and wellness, child online protection, because also being at home, some children had access to mobile phones or access to the internet, which is a whole other space that they need supporting as they get into it, on how to interact and how to be safe. We also just had like other school-based subjects such as Kiswahili and mathematics. So it was a collaborative initiative between the schools and TunapandaNET. And then once they were created, they were uploaded onto our e-learning platform, which is called Soma, and then made available through the network.
Another goal of the initiative is to turn residents from mere consumers of the internet into active internet users. Many are digital immigrants. They use WhatsApp, but otherwise don't make much use of the internet, or also don't know how to use it.
We received quite a positive response from the teachers and the students. Especially what was surprising was the reception from the teachers. Over the years, we have done digital literacy trainings for students who are usually quite receptive and quite energetic, but the resistance was with the teachers. In a school where there are already limited resources, not just in terms of financial, but also teachers. Human capacity, teachers feel quite strained, and so they usually don't are not receptive to anything that would mean more work for them. And so in 2019, as we were introducing like the e-learning concept, we felt like the teachers didn't have the incentive to do it. They felt like it was more work. And so during the pandemic, for us, in fact, to have this being driven by them, and then seeing their reception after the videos were produced, and them using them or sharing them in different WhatsApp groups as well, where they had with the parents. I think for us it was quite fulfilling, and we saw it as a very valuable exercise. And also, I think it feeds into our mission, which is also to ensure that we have more local content, local content production, which is very hard to come by. Our experience in Kibera has taught us that infrastructure is not enough. Access to infrastructure or proximity to internet infrastructure is not enough. We have to think about other aspects that encompass digital inclusion. For example, skills, devices, and then also uh, how do these technologies, as well as the content that is found online, speak to the needs of the people, speak to the priorities of the people. Also looking at the aspects around and formats, um, language and formats, and beyond that, also looking at platforms. So we see right now that there is much development in terms of the social media type of platforms, but very little is being done in terms of development of platforms that can enable maybe access to work, access to better healthcare, access to education. And so if we are to achieve digital equity, if we are to have people who are active, digitally active beyond WhatsApp, we really need to start looking at developing programs that meet the unique needs of each community.
Many different partners supported TunapandaNET in the implementation of the measures. The community network has already achieved a lot during the COVID pandemic, but they have set themselves even more goals for 2022.
Implementation has been supported by partners from all over the world. We have partners who are supporting Tunapanda, and then from the initial idea of a hotspot, they were able to donate equipment. We had partners who came in with grant funding, such as Internet Society, Association of Progressive Communications, and then we had a project from Sweden called Rhinotivity, which also supported through donation of equipment. We had the Abdul Salam Institute, International Center of Theoretical Physics, who were our partner in terms of capacity building, but also introduced us to other partners. They are actually the ones who now introduced us to the Internet Society. And then institutions such as the Kenya Education Research Network, who are not only our internet service provider, but also support us through training our network technicians, and then other partnerships, as mentioned before, with educational institutions such as MIT, and then now local partnerships with organizations. So, for example, who support us with hosting equipment. We actually don't pay to have the equipment hosted. And also just providing support with regards to the network maintenance and security. For 2022 TunapandaNET, looks to continue scaling. There's quite a number of requests from organizations, from schools, from businesses, from homes to get connected. So we are looking at stabilization of the model, especially the sustainability model of the network, so that we are not just reliant on external grants, but find ways of being able to raise now funds from the local community. We have already over 30 hotspots connected, so we hope from the discussions that we have had, from the contributions that they will be giving towards the maintenance and operation of the network, part of that can be used now to expand the network. With growth also comes new challenges, and so we would like to strengthen our network further, especially in terms of management and security. We have realized that in the community network space, there is need for more open source tools because the commercial ones are quite expensive, and so would also like to go into the development space beyond just like the infrastructure and the network itself.
The TunapandaNET initiative was presented as part of the Connective Cities COVID program. Find more good practices of interest on the website connective-cities.net/en/good-practices or on our Connective Cities YouTube channel. This podcast has been produced by FLMH, Labor für Politik und Kommunikation, and FLMH Studios.